Good morning. Start your day informed and ahead. Today is Monday, the 6th of July. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Cheska Litoncala. We are bringing you the perfect mix of the headlines you need and the conversations that shape your day. Welcome to Morning Matters.
All right, so how's your weekend?
Back to school
Back
ako.
to school ka. But it's big day today because today is the start of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. And if people are wondering, where's Pawi?
So Pawi is actually over at the Senate this
Yan.
early. She's already there. We'll be speaking with her later on, and she'll be giving us updates on what's going on the ground there.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Senator judges are set to convene as members of the impeachment court at 2 p.m. later today, July 6. House prosecutors are expected to formally present the articles of impeachment, while Vice President Sara Duterte legal team is anticipated to formally appear. Duterte has also been ordered to appear either in personal or through her legal counsel. Senators will also tackle the rules and timetable of the trial, including deadlines for pleadings and the presentation of evidence. Duterte faces allegations including misuse of confidential and intelligence funds, unexplained wealth, and betrayal of public trust. She has denied wrongdoing and has called the impeachment case politically motivated. The Senate Impeachment Court has approved a 92-day trial period with 62 days allotted for the prosecution and 30 days for the defense. Until July 27, hearings will be held on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays starting at 2 p.m. After July 27, the trial will shift to Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, also starting at 2 p.m. So as I've said, today is going to be a big day because it's the start of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Opening of statements of both the prosecution and the defense panel, and also clarification on the request, if both the private and public prosecution lawyers will examine the witnesses. Also, they will also finish talking on the issue of opening the box, the BIR box.
Yes, and you already mentioned the schedule, and we've talked about this also last week, that there are 92 trial dates. So this is day one of 92. Yes. Prosecution gets 62 trial dates and defense gets 30 trial dates. And pinag-usapan na rin in order. It's not gonna be Article 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
So they're tackling first Article 4, the assassination plot, grave threats, and inciting sedition against the government. So this will get 11 trial dates. And then Article 1, misuse and misappropriation of confidential funds, will get the bulk of the trial dates, so it's 31 for that. Article 3 gets 8 trial dates. This is bribery and corruption within Department of Education. And then the last one is Article 2, unexplained wealth, false sal-ins, and continued business interests, which gets 12 trial dates.
And if I'm not mistaken, yung articles on unexplained wealth or confidential fund will be the longest, no?
Yes.
Will have the longest trial days.
Yun yung 31
yes.
trial dates. Kasi yun daw yung napakaraming
exhaustive,
documents, evidence na. Yun yung I think 4,000.
Yes,
na
documents.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Because it's an issue of money. They will the prosecution has to prove there is an explained wealth coming from the side of Vice President Sara Duterte. They will also tackle for sure the issue of Mary Grace Piatos. But we all have to remember this is the second time that the Vice President has been impeached. The first one was last year, pero because of the Senate shenanigans and the intervention of the Supreme Court, hindi natuloy yun. And this time around, the House, the Congress, medyo nag-ingat sila. So they went to the longer pero meticulous path, which is yun nga dumaan pa sa House Committee on Justice, yung mga articles of impeachment before they impeach the Vice President.
Yeah,
so
we've seen several impeachment proceedings here in the Philippines, but Vice President Sara Duterte is the first Philippine official to be impeached twice.
Twice. That's right. No.
All right, still lots to talk about. This is only day one. So, the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte contains 4 articles detailing the allegations against her. As mentioned earlier, the first article accuses Duterte of culpable violation of the Constitution, graft and corruption, and betrayal of public trust over the alleged misuse and questionable liquidation of confidential funds allocated to the office of the Vice President and the Department of Education. The second article alleges that Duterte amassed unexplained wealth, failed to fully disclose her assets and business interests in her SALNs, and continued to hold business interests while serving as vice president. The third article charges Duterte with bribery, graft and corruption, and betrayal of public trust for allegedly giving cash payments to Department of Education officials to influence procurement decisions. The fourth article accuses Duterte of culpable violation of the Constitution of High Crimes and betrayal of public trust over her alleged assassination threats against President Bongbong Marcos, First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, and former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. So, this is what we were also talking about earlier. This is already the second impeachment case filed against Vice President Sara Duterte, and we've heard already yung response niya. And as her defense said, the articles of impeachment are constitutionally infirm, procedurally defective, and substantively deficient.
Exactly.
I'm sure we're going to hear more in the coming days because
That's right. And the prosecution's private lawyers are expected to level the playing field in the court as House lawmakers as well, no, who have limited recent courtroom experiences or exposure kasi more on crafting laws sila compared doon sa defense na may mga high experience sila sa litigation. But we'll see what's going to happen there. For the meantime, all eyes are on the Senate as the impeachment trial officially begins at 2 p.m. But ahead of the proceedings, key questions remain. Joining us live from the Senate is Pauline Versosa. Pauline, what can we expect on the day of trial 1?
All right. Well, good morning to you, ladies. Angela and Cheska, you did mention today is a very important day indeed for the country. We've been talking about this for weeks. This has been the topic of our headlines for months. But today, that day has finally arrived. We are just a few hours away from one of the biggest political events in the country's recent history, and that is the historic impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Now, today is historic because for the first time, a sitting vice president will be tried by the Senate. Now, as you can see, we're already here inside the Senate premises, and right now the atmosphere is still relatively calm. In fact, you can even say that this might be the calm before the storm. But while things may appear quiet for now, preparations have been extensive behind the scenes. The impeachment court has already laid down strict rules similar to those that will be observed in regular courts. Everyone inside the Senate, from the senator judges, from the lawyers to the guests, and even members of the media, is expected to observe proper decorum throughout the proceedings. And later at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the Senate will reconvene as an impeachment court. As you know, this trial has been months in the making after the first impeachment attempt last year encountered several political and legal hurdles. But this time, it is finally moving forward, and here's what we can expect today. Day 1 will focus mostly on preliminary matters, including the formal entry of appearance of both sides, the prosecution and the defense. There will be opening statements as well from both parties. And then there will be the resolution of pending motions, including whether the green BIR box could be opened and whether or not private prosecutors will be allowed to cross-examine witnesses. Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian said over the weekend that no witnesses or evidence will be presented just yet today, as agreed upon by all the senators during their all-member caucus. The presentation of evidence and witnesses will most likely take place tomorrow, Tuesday, with the prosecution expected to tackle first the allegations on grave threats. So again, none of the trial activities will be taking place. The presentation of evidence and the witnesses today will just focus on preliminary matters. But nonetheless, these are still very important because this will set the tone of the proceedings moving forward. And as you know, first impressions do matter, so we are expecting both sides to make a strong impression later this afternoon. Ladies.
Well, Pauline, there have been questions about who will preside over the impeachment court. And of course, we've seen and heard Senator Win Gatchalian saying that he will preside. But is there a possibility upon convening the impeachment court that they will vote for the presiding officer for the impeachment trial proper?
Well, yes, Angela, under the Senate impeachment rules, the Senate president by default is expected to serve as the presiding officer. So that is Senator Sherwin Gatchalian as a Senate president. But of course, we have to talk about those rumors, those talks that Senator Cheese Escudero could potentially be presiding over this impeachment trial, given his legal background and experience. Now, under the amended Senate rules, yes, this is allowed, especially if a majority of senators will elect a new presiding officer. Now, they are expected, or the majority bloc is expected to discuss this first before the trial. They will reportedly have a caucus at 10 a.m. and they will be finalizing that. But unless there is a change by way of a majority vote, then Senator Sherwin Gatchalian will remain as the presiding officer. In fact, he said he has already prepared extensively for this impeachment trial. He has consulted legal experts, individuals who has had past experiences with impeachment proceedings. He even said he's been watching and replaying the 2012 impeachment trial of former Chief Justice Renato Corona to give him a clearer picture of how impeachment proceedings will unfold. But one thing that Senator Sherwin Gatchalian says he's looking into is actually finding ways on how to expedite this impeachment trial because, as you know, they still have other legislative responsibilities. They have to tackle other pending bills, including the upcoming 2027 national budget. And this trial is expected to last for 92 days. That's the time they have allotted for it. But Senator Gatchalian is saying he will be consulting both parties to see if they can fast track this, expedite it by presenting multiple witnesses in one day, or maybe even shortening the witness list altogether. So we're going to find out later or this afternoon if Senator Gatchalian will indeed be the presiding officer or if there will be any motion to elect a new one.
Pawi, another question on everyone's minds is, will we see Vice President Sara Duterte attend these proceedings? Her defense team has already said she will appear if necessary. But what are the expectations for today?
Well, you're right, Cheska. That still remains as one of the biggest questions ahead of this afternoon's trial. So far, Vice President Sara Duterte's lawyers have not confirmed whether she will be attending the trial today. But attorney Michael Poa has previously stated that Vice President Sara Duterte is ready to appear in her trial if needed. Now, under the impeachment rules, Vice President Duterte may actually opt not to personally attend. As Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian said, she may just send a lawyer or even a representative, and notifying her to attend was simply part of the process. According to attorney Michael Poa, he also mentioned that titignan din nila through the course of the trial if Vice President Sara Duterte would need to appear, if it is imperative for her to be there personally, and they will advise her to do so. But over the weekend, President Bongbong Marcos actually gave his 2 cents about this matter as well. He weighed in saying that the proceedings may actually move more quickly if Vice President Sara Duterte will attend her trial herself. He even said that if he was in her position, he would even insist against the advice of his own lawyers to personally appear before the court. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro also said that Vice President Duterte should personally appear if she is serious about answering questions on accountability. And if she really wants a bloodbath, then now is the time to do it.
Right. Pauline, I was wondering if you have any information about the issue on the opening of the BIR box, because there have been talks that there is a draft decision already, and they most likely will be rejecting the opening of the box, given the interviews or statements of Senator Ping Lacson. Do you have any information regarding that?
Well, yes, that's right, Angela. This green BIR box has definitely been one of the biggest points of contention ahead of this impeachment trial. What we know is that this is, of course, among the evidence that the prosecution wants to present in relation to Article 2, which focuses on the allegations of unexplained wealth of the vice president, but it was left unsealed. Or it was left sealed rather, and unmarked during the pre-trial conference. Attorney Michael Poa actually said the defense has no objections when it comes to opening this BIR box, but it has to be done in accordance with the National Internal Revenue Code. Now, like what you mentioned, Angela, some senators have already expressed that it might not be prudent for the senator judges to open this BIR box. Senator Ping Lacson, for one, said that the Senate impeachment court has no business safekeeping this green box because the evidence should be presented by either the prosecution or the defense, and it should not be in the custody of the Senate as a court. He also added that one of the agreements they already reached during their all-member caucus last Friday was to return the sealed box because it could be contrary to the law, and this might also expose them to allegations of grave abuse of discretion, especially if they decide to open this while not following the rules of the National Internal Revenue Code, which states that tax records must be disclosed upon the written authority of the president, upon the consent of the taxpayer himself or herself, and this must also be done in an executive session. So what we know is this matter will be tackled anyway. First thing, when the Senate convenes as an impeachment court, is one of the matters that they will be tackling during the preliminary proceedings.
All right, thank you so much, Pauline Versosa.
Let's now check the situation outside the Senate. Mobile journalist Evan Tarinque joins us live for the latest. Evan, meron na bang mga nagpoprotesta sa labas ng Senado?
Jessica, sa mga oras na ito, mahigpit yung seguridad dito sa labas ng Senado dahil nga sa unang araw ng impeachment trial laban nga kay Vice President Sara Duterte. Pero so far, nanatili nga, pakita rin natin ngayon yung current situation dito sa labas. Makikita naman natin na maraming mga kapulisan ang current na nandito sa labas. At makikita nga natin dito, naglagay na rin sila nitong mga razor barriers. Itong mga razor barriers na to, ito raw yung dagdag additional na pangharang kung sakali man na magkaroon or dumating ng mga nagkikilos protesta ngayong araw. Pero ayon sa NCRPO, kahapon pa lang, naka-heightened alert na ang ating mga kapulisan para nga sa ngayong araw. Pero makikita natin ngayon, Cheska, ina-expect nga natin na ngayong araw may mga darating at mga pupunta na mga taga-suporta, pati na rin ng mga magkikilos protesta dito nga sa labas ng Senado maya-maya lang. Kaya naman yung mga otoridad nagdagdag na rin ng security, kaya naman nasa 6,000 yung mga kapulisan na nakakalat sa loob at labas ng Senado. Dahil din dyan, sinara itong kahabaan ng Jokno Avenue hanggang sa may Seaside Boulevard hanggang doon sa Atang Derrama Street. Kaya naman yung mga kapatid nating motorista, pinayuhan sila na maghanap na lang muna ng alternatibong ruta dahil yung mga sasakyan hindi muna talaga makakadaan dito. Jessica.
Evan, dati kasi may incident na may mga nagbabato ng kung ano-anong bagay sa kotse ng isang senador palabas ng Senado. Ano yung mga precautions or ano na yung mga adjustments na ginawa para hindi na ulit mangyari to?
Tama ka dyan, Cheska. Ngayon, ito, tingnan natin yung situation dito sa labas. Ito makikita natin na one-way entry. So ang mangyayari, yung mga sasakyan na galing dito sa may Jokno Boulevard, dito sila papasok at dito naman yung kanilang labas. So dahil dyan, talagang hindi na makakalapit or makakapunta yung ilang mga magkikilos protesta doon nga sa mga sasakyan ng mga ilang mga senador. Pero dito, makikita naman natin, so far ito, makikita natin may mga kinay naglalakad at ito nga mga razor barriers na ito, iniharang siya dito sa labas ng Senado bilang ang tulong, bilang pangharang, additional layer of protection para nga doon sa mga kung sakali man may magdating na kilos protesta. Dagdag din, Cheska, inusog din nila, so medyo mas maluwag yung, mas malaki yung capacity nung mga naharangan. So malaki yung mga lugar na hindi malalapitan ng mga magkikilos protesta kung sakali man yung mga sasakyan na lalabas at papasok dito ng Senado. Cheska.
Thank you for your updates, mobile journalist Evan Tarinque. All right, don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break. Welcome back to our program. You're watching Morning Matters. Before the Senate trial begins, here's a quick look at how the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte reached this point. The case traces back to July 2023 when the Commission on Audit flagged the office of the Vice President's use of the 125 million pesos in confidential funds. 3 impeachment complaints were filed in December 2024, leading to Duterte's first impeachment by the House in February 2025. But in July 2025, the Supreme Court unanimously voided the impeachment, ruling that the House violated the Constitution's one-year bar rule. The Senate later archived the case. New impeachment complaints were filed in early 2026 after months of House investigations, hearings, and the presentation of documents and witnesses. The Justice Committee found probable cause. On May 11, 2026, the House impeached Duterte for a second time, with 257 lawmakers approving the articles of impeachment. The Senate received the articles, convened as an impeachment court, completed pre-trial proceedings, and now begins the trial proper.
Meanwhile, Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian is expected to preside over the Senate impeachment court as the trial of Vice President Sara Duterte begins today. Under Senate rules, the Senate President serves as the presiding officer. Gatchalian said preparations have focused on reviewing possible scenarios, court procedures, and the technical responsibilities of presiding over the impeachment trial. Meanwhile, 22 senators are expected to serve as senator judges during the opening of the trial. Senator Bato de la Rosa is not expected to attend as he remains in hiding, while suspended Senator Jinggoy Estrada is also unable to participate. Gatchalian said discussions on the conviction threshold will not take place on the first day of the proceedings, noting that the issue will be tackled at the appropriate stage of the trial.
Final preparations are underway at the Senate ahead of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Joining us live is mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Merimon, how are the final preparations there ahead of the 2 p.m. proceedings?
Jessica, Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian is actually thanking the Office of the Surgeon at Arms in cooperation with the other law enforcement agencies and security of within and around the Senate premises kasi ibang bagay daw talaga mahalaga ngayon ang security, especially sa pagsisimula ng impeachment trial mamaya 2 p.m. onwards. It's all systems go so far, pero wala pa raw communication at wala pang nagbabanggit kung ito bang si Vice President Sara Duterte ay pupunta personally or yun nga through her counsel na lamang or itong kanyang defense team. Ang sabi rin naman ni SP Gatchalian, nilinaw niya again, according to sa Constitution, and as confirmed, tulad sinabi niya sa mga lumipas na araw, he will be presiding the Senate impeachment trial at kung sakali man na magkakaroon pa ng discussion tungkol sa kung maipapalit pa ba as presiding officer, in due time din daw nila yun mapag-uusapan. So far, what we saw earlier, may K9 units din na naglilibot dito sa loob ng Senate premises pero hindi pa tayo pwedeng makasilip or makapasok sa pinaka-plenary hall. Cheska.
Thank you, mobile journalist Merimon Reyes.
The House prosecution team is all set for today's impeachment trial. For updates, let's bring in our mobile journalist Amy Atienza, who's live on the ground. Amy, kumusta ang preparations ng prosecution team para sa opening day ng trial?
Yes, Angela, handa na nga ang House Prosecution Panel kasama ang private lawyers para nga dito sa unang araw ng impeachment trial ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Kaninang umaga ay narinig na natin yung pahayag ni Bicol Saro Party List Representative at House Prosecutor Terry Ridon at nasabi niya doon na handa na rin talaga na maipresenta ng House Prosecution Panel yung articles of impeachment, maging yung mga dokumento at ebidensya na nakalakip doon sa mga reklamong natanggap ng House of Representatives Representatives noong mga nakaraang buwan. Ngayon, Angela, ang hintayin din natin ay kung ano pa nga ba yung motions na iseset nitong House of Representatives, kabilang na nga din dyan yung sa conviction threshold, pati na rin yung motion to open the BIR box dahil naririnig natin ng mga nakaraan na isasauli daw itong green na kahon sa House of Representatives at hindi na nga siguro bubuksan. Pero ang patuloy kasing panawagan din ng Kamara at ng lower chamber ay yun nga, mabuksan sana itong BIR box para nga patuloy na makita yung mga dokumento at ebidensya. Ang nakapaloob kasi dito sa box na ito ay yung income tax returns ni Vice President Sara Duterte at ng asawa niyang si Attorney Man Scarpio na higit na makatutulong para nga din sa kanilang presentasyon pagdating sa unexplained wealth ni VP Sara. At para sa kanila kasi ay mahalaga din na makita ito dahil kung sa trial naman daw bubuksan ay masusupervise ito ng depensa. Pero yun nga, patuloy pa rin yung usapin tungkol dyan sa BIR box na sinasabi. Pero sa araw na ito, ang expected lang din natin, Angela, ay makita nga at mapag-usapan yung sa grave threats and destabilization na ibinigay ni VP Sara sa gobyerno. At yun nga, nasabi na rin naman doon sa nakita natin ng article of impeachment na titingnan talaga dito yung pattern of behavior ni VP Sara. Kaya merong mga na-invite din na testigo kabilang si Court Sheriff Abby Andres na sinuntok umano ni VP Sara noong 2011 sa isang demolition operation sa Davao City. At pati yung mga reporters na kasama doon sa Zoom press conference si VP Sara nung nagtangka siya laban kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos at kay First Lady Liza Marcos ay pinapatawag din for this particular article of impeachment. So yun yung mga abangan natin, lalong-lalo na dahil nga magsisimula sa article number 4 itong impeachment trial laban kay VP Sara.
Alright, thank you so much, mobile journalist Amy Atienza.
The defense team of Vice President Sara Duterte says it is confident that she will be acquitted as her impeachment trial opens today. Joining us live is mobile journalist Arles De Los Santos for the details. Arles, please go ahead.
Cheska, handa mula noon at handa hanggang ngayon. Ayan ang iginiit ng kampo ni Vice President Sara Duterte para sa paparating na pagsisimula ng impeachment trial nito ngayong Lunes dito sa Senado, kung saan nga 16 na abogado ang magsisilbing bahagi ng depensa, kung saan nga pangungunahan yan ni Attorney Sheila Fortun. At karamihan dito sa mga abogado na ito, Cheska, ay mga wala pang 10 taon na karanasan. Pero kaiba doon sa dalawang abogado na sina Attorney Fortun, ay kasama diyan si Attorney Defense Team ni Attorney Gregorio Narvasa II at si Sigrid Fortun na may mahabang karanasan, 4 na dekada na yung huling nakita natin na record nila, at kasama sa mga malalaking kaso na kanilang hinawakan ay ang impeachment trial din ni nooy President Joseph Estrada na kalaunan nga ay nag-lead doon sa ikalawang EDSA. At kabukod dyan, kasama din sa magiging bahagi ng kanyang defense team ang dating pinuno ng DepEd, ang dating finance OIC ng DepEd na si Michael Powa, na kasama rin sa mga witnesses na inilista ng depensa. Ani Powa ay mula 2023 pa lamang ay nagbuo na ng impeachment defense team si Vice President Sara Duterte kahit hindi pa sinisimulan ang mga papel para sa planong impeachment para sa...
All right, Arles, thank you. Mobile journalist Arles De Los Santos.
Now let's check the situation back at the Senate. We have our co-anchor, Pauline. Pauline, may mga dumating na bang mga senator judges dyan?
Yes, Angela. Well, as of this moment, we haven't seen any senator yet inside the Senate premises at this hour. What we don't know is that they will be having a caucus at 10 a.m. The majority bloc will be holding one just hours before the impeachment trial at 2 p.m. But another thing that we are anticipating, Angela, is if the minority bloc senators will also be showing up and participating in the impeachment trial today. But if you ask Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian, he says he's optimistic that all available senators will be participating in the trial today, including those in the minority bloc. He said one of the positive signs is that Senators Robin Padilla and Lauren Legarda not just attended, but were even active during the all-member caucus last Friday. And so he's not expecting a boycott on the part of the minority bloc, especially because this is a part of their constitutional duty as senators. Senator Gatchalian also believes that many of them have already moved on moved on from previous issues. So as of this morning, we haven't received any indication yet if any senator plans to skip the impeachment trial. But even if some senators are absent, Cheska and Angela, the trial will still be proceeding as long as the impeachment has a quorum. So an absent senator does not automatically stop or delay the proceedings. As long as there is quorum, the impeachment trial will continue today.
Well, thank you so much for your updates, Pauline Versosa. We'll get back to you later in the show. And when we return later at 9:30 a.m., Attorney Tranquil Salvador and political strategist Malu Tiquia joins us as we continue our coverage and analysis of the Senate impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. But do not go away because Money Talks with Cathy Yang is up next to get you ahead of the market. Stay tuned. More news.
Again, one more time, if you can say hi. Lito, I hope you're with us. Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, digital fund transfers are turning cheaper fast. RCBC, GCash, Maya, and Land Bank are the latest to scrap or reduce InstaPay transfer fees after BPI. Bangko Sentral Governor Eli Remolona says more banks will announce zero transfer fees soon. Vito Villanueva, EVP and Chief Innovation and Inclusion Officer at RCBC, joins us live. Analysts see Philippine inflation likely eased in June with a median estimate of 6.6%. And the Senate begins the impeachment trial for Vice President Sara Duterte this afternoon. The House should investors look at political and economic risks. Emmanuel Noel Leco, President and Chief Economist of Credit Rating and Investor Services Philippines, Inc., and Fellow at Center for People Empowerment and Governance, or CENTEC, joins us live. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas expects more banks and e-wallets to lower or waive their digital transfer fees. This follows a BSP circular requiring financial institutions to adopt reasonable, fair, and market-based pricing for individual digital transactions. In response, several financial institutions have already started adjusting their fees. GCash has reduced its InstaPay fee to 10 pesos. Starting today, Maya will also lower its InstaPay fee to 10 pesos, while PesoNet transfers remain free. BPI was the first to permanently waive InstaPay and PesoNet fees following the circular. RCBC has since joined in, offering 30 free InstaPay transfers each month. BSP Governor Eli Remolona said more financial institutions are expected to follow. For bank customers in the Philippines, digital fund transfers are getting cheaper fast. After BPI scrapped all interbank transfer fees on July 1st, RCBC is now making InstaPay transfers free with conditions, while Maya and GCash have lowered their transfer fees to 10 pesos as of July 4 as well. In addition, Land Bank has partially let go of transaction fees. It has waived certain government-related digital payment fees and cut, but not fully eliminated InstaPay transfer charges. All these as regulators push banks to speed up cashless transaction adoption among domestic businesses. BSP Circular Number 1238 Series 2026 is a landmark BSP directive issued on June 17 this year, mandating fair, transparent, and market-based pricing for electronic fund transfers. The The circular lifts a long-standing pricing moratorium on the InstaPay and Peso networks. With us for more is RCBC Executive Vice President and Chief Innovation and Inclusion Officer Lito Villanueva. It's good hearing from you again, Lito. Welcome back to the program.
Nice to see you again, Kathy, and thank you for having me.
All right, so RCBC's just made InstaPay transfers free starting last Saturday, July 4th. So how is customer intake or uptake looking so far?
Well, the good news, Kathy, is that what we've seen is that the 10% increase after 1 day after the start of our free InstaPay since the time that we announced it last Friday.
Okay, so what kind of transactions did you see, that 10% jump over the last 48 hours?
That is really purely InstaPay transfers, and that's why we are very encouraged since that, this is actually part of our support to the BSP in terms of having to ensure more Filipinos will be able to adopt to digital payments.
Okay, but as I understand, these come with conditions, Lito. I mean, how many transactions per customer are free, and what is the minimum amount?
Okay, so as you know, Kathy, we have two mobile apps. First is the RCBC Pulse that calls for a cap of 30 transactions per month and a minimum transaction amount of 100 pesos. This is based on empirical data. So in fact, our data science would tell us, based on transaction behavior of our customers, 99% of RCBC Pulse customers would normally have less than 30 transfers per month, and the average transfer amount is about 7,000 pesos. So that is really based on data, Kathy. And on the other hand, for Discartec, that is practically unlimited transfers for all our Discartec users.
All right, but the move comes 3 days after BPI scrapped transfer fees entirely for the interbank transactions via InstaPay and PesoNet. Did you move up your timeline because of BPI's move?
No, it's really more about our push for more innovation, for more customers to adopt the digital payments. Because as you may know, Kathy, of course, cost would be a barrier to entry or adoption for most Filipinos. So it's really more about having to ensure that it's not about just compliance. It's really more about us having to provide, disincentives, for our loyal customers. And in fact, this will definitely be beneficial for RCBC, given that we have seen the exponential growth of InstaPay transactions across the board, across the entire industry.
So given that, are you going to be scrapping transfer fees on PesoNet anytime soon?
Well, as I said, we started this last Saturday, so it's free for initial 30 transactions per month with a minimum of 100 pesos. And for Discartec, it's unlimited.
Well, when are you going to remove the 30 transactions per month?
It will really, because remember, Kathy, it would really depend on the transaction velocity. We are looking at, say, 1 to 2 weeks in terms of having to check whether there is an uptake in terms of more transactions that they would normally do. But based on our data right now, it only says that 99% of our customers would normally transfer less than 30 times per month.
So does that appear like you will be letting go of the transfer fees for PesoNet given the velocity you've seen over the last 48 hours?
Yeah, well, we'll see first on InstaPay whether that will transcend to them having to transition to PesoNet. Because remember, InstaPay would be low value at a max of 50,000 per transfer in real time, but PesoNet would be a higher value, but based on a batch transaction. So, but we'll see first on InstaPay, and eventually we'll move to PesoNet.
All right, let's talk a bit about behavior change, as you mentioned earlier. Could you just give one concrete example, say a sari-sari store owner using RCBC today, on what they were paying before versus what they'll be paying now with those transfer fee frees?
Yes, just imagine, Kathy, before, RCBC Pulse would charge 10 pesos per transfer. And if you have 30 transactions per month, that would be 300 pesos of savings back to the customer. So if you have a sari-sari store, so imagine having to save 300 pesos would be part of your, of your fund for more inventory in your store. So that 300 pesos would mean maybe one case of soft drinks or that you could sell, or practically 5 or 6 kilos of rice that you could also sell. So this definitely goes back to the benefit of our sari-sari store or even our customers in general.
All right, let's take the example, for instance, for remittance-reliant families or maybe even gig workers. What is the benefit of this?
Well, that again, they could send as many, as frequent as they would want now to their loved ones in the Philippines, and their loved ones who are receiving the remittances or the funds from their, from their family members overseas would now be able to again save those supposed transaction fees. And the good thing here is that without them having to to transact one or two times only, they could transact as many times as they could without having to to worry about transaction fees. Because as you know, Kathy, the best innovation would always be the way by which Filipinos would normally use it on an everyday life, right? So the best innovation is the one that you should use for every day.
And also used responsibly. I mean, there is the propensity for maybe scams. So how are you making sure they also understand the risks from scams to overspending as everything becomes more frictionless?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. As a BSFI, as a regulated entity, we are also obliged, because we have our shareholders, we are a publicly listed company. We have to make sure that we have undergone risk management and also prudent in terms of having to execute all our business models. So in this particular case, we all know for a fact that there's still the proliferation of scammers and fraudsters. And imagine if you are to make it unlimited, for example, some fraudsters may just spend 1 peso unlimited times, multiple times, right? And that is practically cost to the bank. Remember, the cost here is on a per transaction basis. Imagine a fraudster sending 1 peso per transfer multiple times, and that would be detrimental to the bank, right? So that's why we have to make sure it's key to this cyber fraud criminal act.
But from a business standpoint, Lito, waiving transfer fees also means giving visible revenue lines. So how do you make this sustainable? Do you recover through the higher volumes or cross-selling other products or introducing efficiencies in digital operations?
Yeah, definitely this will be cost the bank in terms of foregone revenues, but we are not looking at that that landscape anymore, because you could do cross-selling, upselling, and this definitely would further enhance or strengthen the value proposition in terms of customer experience and customer loyalty, right? Because at the end of the day, you could do a lot in terms of having to increase transaction velocity and strengthen and further expand the customer relationship or business relationship with your customers.
Got that. Interesting times for the banking industry. Thank you so much for your insights, Lito Villanueva of RCBC. In other news, the Philippines has secured $2.5 billion in investment pledges following President Bongbong Marcos's official visit to Vancouver, Canada. The investment pledges cover the mining, critical minerals, energy services, and IT BPM sectors. Also during the visit, President Marcos and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney elevated Philippines-Canada ties to a strategic partnership. Both leaders also committed to conclude a Philippines-Canada Free Trade Agreement this year, while negotiations on the ASEAN-Canada Free Trade Agreement continue. 4 cooperation agreements were also signed covering critical minerals and energy, labor and migration, tourism, and people-to-people and cultural exchanges. President Marcos and the Philippine delegation returned to Manila on Sunday afternoon.
Tunay na naging matagumpay ang ating biyahe kung saan napagsayunan natin ang ilang mga inisyatibo sa hanay ng gobyerno at ng pribadong sektor. Hard work, though, does not end here. Patuloy tayong magsisikap upang ang ating nakamit at nasimulan sa Canada ay yayabong at madarama ng mas nakakaraming Pilipino.
Prices at the pump are expected to rise this week. The Department of Energy says based on 4 days of trading at the Bean of Platts, Singapore, gasoline may rise or fall by 1 peso and 50 centavos per liter, and diesel and kerosene may go up between 8 peso and 3 pesos per liter. Final price adjustments for tomorrow are expected to be announced today. DOE Oil Industry Management Bureau Director Rino Abad said oil prices in the world market remain volatile amid uncertainty surrounding the U.S.-Iran ceasefire agreement. Meantime, preliminary figures from Meralco show higher energy sales in the second quarter, driven by greater use of cooling appliances due to the summer heat, which was intensified by El Nino. Meralco Head of Customer Relations and Services, Charina Padua, said energy sales rose by 0.6% year-on-year to 14,495 gigawatt hours. Overseas, OPEC Plus will raise production output in August by 188,000 barrels. OPEC Plus has been raising output since April, despite the closure of the Hormuz Strait that unleashed the greatest energy crisis in history, which means these increases are largely on paper. Global oil prices edged down as of 8:30 p.m. a.m. Philippine time. Brent crude trading at $71 a barrel, down 0.4%. And West Texas Intermediate sitting at $68 a barrel, down 0.2%. You're watching Money Talks. Coming up, how should investors look at political and economic risks with Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial happening this afternoon? We speak with Emmanuel Noel Leco, the President and Chief Economist, Credit Rating and Services Philippines. And we check in on the situation at the Senate and what to expect this afternoon from our mobile journalist, Merimon Reyes. Keep it here on One News. I see, hindi na pwede. Okay, that's all right. Yes, Marymon, welcome back. Kathy here.
Good morning,
Marymon, I
Miss
hope you can hear me.
Kathy.
Yes, so we'll take you first and then an update lang. Everything all right there so far? Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. All eyes on the Senate as final preparations continue ahead of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. For the latest, we go live to our mobile journalist, Merimon Reyes. So how's the situation there ahead of the 2 p.m. proceedings, Merimon?
Kathy, so far, that's all systems go for the Senate that is set to reconvene as the impeachment court later in the afternoon. Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian also confirms that he will be presiding over the impeachment trial proceedings. And while he is thanking the presence of Senator Robin Padilla and Senator Loren Legarda, who attended last week's or this weekend's All Senators Caucus, he is still hoping and encouraging all senators from both the majority, especially the minority bloc, to be present, to attend, and to participate in the trial proceedings. So far, he is also thanking the Office of the Surgeon at Arms alongside the cooperation from the PNP, the Comprehensive Security Unit within the Senate premises, because when it comes to the impeachment trial proceedings, plus the heightened security alert, everyone should be everything is in high stakes, especially the safety and the security of everyone within and outside the Senate premises. So far, there are no communication yet from the side of the Office of the Vice President indicating that the VP or VP Sara Duterte will be attending in person, or as an option will be her presence will be through her legal counsel or her defense team. So far, we're yet to see any of the senator judges nor the House prosecution panel or the defense team, pero mamaya makikita natin sila bandang tanghali. Kathy.
Okay, we'll be keeping up to speed on that. Salamat for the update, our mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Stay tuned to One News for our special coverage of VP Duterte's impeachment trial at 2 p.m. Shortly. And the Vice President facing 4 articles of impeachment, from misuse of confidential funds to unexplained wealth. How should investors look at the political and economic risks? With us for more is Emmanuel Noel Leco, the President and Chief Economist, Credit Rating and Investor Services Philippines, Inc., and Fellow, Center for People Empowerment and Governance, or CENPEG. It's good seeing you again, Noel. Welcome back to the program.
Glad to be back. Thank you for having me.
All right, so from a sovereign and institutional risk lens, is the impeachment trial going to be a sign of democratic stress, or is it just going to be a test of...
Normally, impeachment proceedings are not part of the regular process of legislature or government. However, it's great that we have this impeachment so that it can provide the checks and balance. If somebody violates good governance, at least the people will be able to resort to impeachment. However, if we are impeaching somebody, if we're impeaching government officials every term, I don't think that is good. But it's great that we have the impeachment right now, and so this is quite historic.
I'm going to pick up on the not so good part and the way that it impacts risk. How then can investors reprice or a certain risk at this point if it's not the normal part of anybody's just observing what goes on?
Well, having the impeachment proceedings is part of a democratic governance. However, having it on a regular basis is not good. So investors will be stepping back and see if the one being impeached, the one being tried is guilty, and how much would it cost the economy? How much has been stolen, or what kind of violations were created or committed by the impeached official.
But what is regular anyway? I mean, the regularity you just mentioned about the impeachment, and what can we learn from these moments? Because as we've seen from the equity markets, it does respond sharply, but very briefly. So in terms of that regularity, the equity volatility pattern, what have you seen in these past instances?
Well, in the near term, equities and even bond markets will also react. Definitely, especially now that there seems to be a clustering of accountability procedures right now. There is still the ongoing investigation by the Ombudsman, of course, these impeachment proceedings at the Senate, and the former president is being held in ICC, being held for his accountability in that EJK during his term. So for the Philippines, I don't think it is normal, or it is something that we should always expect. Perhaps, like I said, it's great that we have impeachment as a resort that we can go to if something goes wrong. However, the clustering is not exactly preferable. We have the impeachment, we have the Ombudsman, and we have the ICC. And these are high officials that are being held and tried for their accountability.
Given
in
the
major
clustering
crimes.
that you're seeing and the repetitive mentions of maybe banking receipts, let's say for the impeachment trial, What impact do you think that might have on confidence when it comes to banking stocks, maybe even deposits, if indeed we get more shocking information regarding banking receipts?
Well, remember, this involves money. Some questions will be raised here. The impeachment case, actually, we already heard. This is involving billions of pesos. Now, there will be questions. How are these billions of pesos being handled? And we heard that these are being handled in cash. You know, they're being put in luggages and being delivered in armored trucks inside where luggages. So there seems to be a question. How are these monies, this cash, being handled? How can they be taken out of the banking system and not hearing anybody raising red flags? But technically, we have a very strict system here. We have a very stringent procedure policy that if you withdraw so much cash, you will already be flagged. But this time, we're hearing billions of pesos, and it's only now that we're hearing about it.
So could confidence be derailed in the banking industry?
Well, definitely, I think this will have some implications on the banking industry, particularly handling cash. If our banking system is strict enough, like it is said, no, billions of pesos in cash being taken out and being distributed, I think that is quite anomalous.
For foreign investors holding Philippine sovereigns, what do you think should be the specific indicators that they should monitor?
I think they should look at the intensity of the crimes being alleged and see if this will create any stability or disruptions in the economic system. In our, well, basically, foreign investors are coming in mostly, you know, like the hot money portfolio. They can come in and out, come in the morning, get out in the afternoon or midday. But the foreign direct investments will be mostly affected because this is, they are going to stay here not just for a few days, but they will be staying here for a few years. Remember, they're investing in infrastructure. So if they see that there's so much widespread corruption in government, so much corruption in the system, and even the financial system is being questioned, particularly the movement of money. I think that is the major question here now. How can trillions of pesos, billions of pesos be moved around without the banking system able to detect them?
Okay, thank you so much for your perspectives, Noel. Well ahead of the impeachment trial at the Senate, with our special coverage coming in at 1 p.m. Philippine time. Let's take a quick check on the Philippine peso. It opens Monday weaker, 61.50 to the dollar. The peso is expected to move sideways this week ahead of the June inflation release. On Friday, the local unit strengthened by 15 centavos to close at 61.415 against the greenback. The peso was supported by the dollar's drop after weaker than forecast U.S. non-farm payrolls data, easing expectations of a rate hike. And checking in on the markets overseas, Asian markets are mixed this Monday as investors rethink AI-driven plays. South Korea's Kospi climbs nearly 1.4%, Japan's Nikkei 225 sheds a third of 1%, and Australia's ASX 200 slides a tenth of 1%. And analysts see the local bourse maintaining its positive momentum this week. The benchmark PSEI Friday gained 62 points, or 1% to close at 6,188. Week on week, the PSEI rose 1.9%, driven by lower oil prices and the country's transition into upper middle income status. And before we go, Filipino tennis star Alex Ayala now sets her sights on the Wimbledon quarterfinals. The 21-year-old will next face Italy's Jasmine Paolini in the round of 16 tonight. This comes after Ayala pulled off a stunning win over defending champion Iga Swiatek of Poland on Saturday. With that victory, Ayala became the first Filipino to reach the fourth round of Wimbledon. Way to go, Alex. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. Join Ed Lingao and Regina Lay at 1 p.m. for our special coverage of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Catch Money Talks again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Have a great day ahead.
I think for them, it would be better that it be determined now. The earlier it would be, that would be better for them. So you see the weighing of the circumstances and interests of both parties. You see? So that's how I see it.
Right.
Attorney, you mentioned earlier that the prosecution should also explain the charges in a manner that the public will understand. And as we saw in the pretrial order as well, both parties will use Filipino and English in the conduct of the trial. Bigger picture, why does this matter? And what are the other ways that the prosecution can break down the legal jargon that the majority of Filipinos don't really understand?
Why does it matter? It matters because a lot of these things, as we said, this process is both legal, and we're trying to follow the processes, constitutional, and also political. This is already undeniable. This is already declared by the Philippine Supreme Court in a number of rulings. And this is recognized that considering its political nature, these politicians, having been given the mandate of the people, will naturally be affected by the opinion of the public. And that is why kindly expect that there will be much discussion in social media as it happens, because this will practically direct the mind of the public as to what is really happening on the guilt, on the lack of guilt, in all of these matters that will be presented. Because at the end of the day, a public that is convinced on the outcome will show that the system and the proceedings are what? Credible. Because if the proceedings would appear not to be credible in the eyes of the public, then they will have a problem.
Exactly, because it is the public who they will need to convince on this matter. But of course, Attorney, I'd also like to ask you, but we've discussed this plenty times already. According to the Constitution, the person impeached is not required to attend the trial itself. But how important for the Vice President to appear today?
Well, that would, as I've mentioned in several interviews, this is a matter to be determined by his team. While it may, for optics purposes, it may be good to be there, but to heighten the interest on the impeachment. But the question is, does she really want to heighten the interest on the impeachment? Those are the questions that they will have to answer. Because the very moment she's there, all of this news, social media will be plastered with her face. Her smile, his reaction, everything, So the question is, should there be there? That's a decision that will be made by her team, And if we will have to go back historically to those proceedings where actually there was trial, that of President Estrada, I do not recall President Estrada appearing because in fact it was cut short by the people power when the prosecutors walked out. You remember? Now, during the time of Chief Justice Corona, I recall that he appeared not every day. There was a singular instance, and because he fell ill, then he returned another day. So it's really something that they will have to decide on. And going back to the Senate rules, it says that he could be represented by counsel, and then could be there, right? And also, she could decide not to appear, but her counsel should be there. And if you look at the latest notice issued by the Senate, it says, well, she's being notified to appear, but she could appear through counsel.
All right. Speaking of, since we've already touched on the previous impeachment proceedings we've seen, how important is it to look back at the precedent set?
Well, this is good for historical purposes. This is good to understand how the public appreciated the proceedings. I think that's very important for communications purposes because as you've asked me a while ago, what is the importance of public opinion? Because from the time of President Estrada till the time of CJ Corona, a lot of things have changed when it comes to communication. At the time of President Estrada and that of CJ Corona, you have broadsheets. You have radio, you have TV, and all of this traditional news that you have. At the time of CJ Corona, it was just social media was just picking up. but not much of a major player. But I see now, because of social media's awareness and presence, it will play an important role in shaping the opinion of the public. That's how I see it. That's the importance of discussing it. As to the articles of impeachment, they have different charges against them. The vice president will have to face it together with her team. But to my mind, the most important reason why we need to discuss the previous impeachment would be how the mind of the public, how public opinion was shaped.
Well, attorney, is resignation still an option for the vice president? And of course, if she resigns, will the impeachment procedure, or should the impeachment procedure push through? Or kasi there are two schools of thought eh. Yung isa sabi, tama na. Yung isang thought would be ay push through pa rin because may pananagutan pa rin ang vice president.
Let's try to break down your questions. Okay, there are two questions there. The first is, could she resign? Well, resignation is a voluntary act. If she wants to resign, to leave her office, then that's her prerogative, okay? So the act of resignation is the prerogative of any public officer, okay? Now let's move on to the second question, which is, can the Senate impeachment proceedings continue? I believe yes. And I think regardless of her resignation, the prosecutors are ready, the Senate is ready, and you will nevertheless see the outcome. Okay, as to whether she is guilty or not guilty. Now, some of this, some people will say, before there was Ombudsman Gutierrez who resigned. There was COMELEC Chairman Bautista who resigned. But kindly take note, in both instances, they resigned immediately after the conclusion of the Committee on Justice proceedings at the House of Representatives.
Right.
One, okay. Second, kindly take note that these two officers, public impeachable officers, are what? Appointed by the president. Remember, that's an important difference. They don't have the mandate of the people. Their power emanates from the appointing authority. And they actually sit there as a public officer. Unlike the vice president, she was not appointed by a president. She has the mandate of the people. So there's a bit of a difference. Now, to my mind, regardless of her actions now, I don't think that the impeachment proceedings will stop. It will continue.
And this will continue for 92 days. So in terms of the rules and the timetable, how critical is it to follow these the days set? I mean, would it be possible for an extension? What are we looking at in the long run?
Jessica, this will be very fluid. When you're handling a case during trial, probably one witness, you expect the witness to testify only in one day. But the witness testifies in a very prolonged period of time. It could be 2-3 days. It could happen. So you cannot actually measure. This is just a good estimate. This is just a projection of the number of days of trial allotted for every witness. But you cannot accurately say, 92 days, this is over. It could be longer. It could be shorter. And in fact, it could be shorter if, let us say, the prosecution is already convinced. Just on one article of impeachment, or just two articles of impeachment, they're convinced, number one, that they have established sufficient evidence, and number two, which is the political side, the mind of the public has already been shaped. They could fall on a vote. They would say, I waive the rest of the articles of impeachment, which happened during CJ Corona's impeachment. He had practically 8 or 9 articles. They just presented 3 articles of impeachment.
Well, allowing the private house prosecutor to examine the witnesses are still in discussion. And I was wondering, does that significantly level the playing field in terms of, we all know that the House lawmakers, most of them, wala pong masyadong experience in terms of courtroom, aside from Congressman Chel Jokno and Congresswoman Laila De Lima. As compared to the defense, meron po silang experienced litigators.
I would assume that our congressmen were already prepared by their team and by their advisors. I think they would want to show to the public, to my mind, I think would want to show to the public that they are equipped and they are competent litigators. And they would want to show that. Because in the past, there have been some question, maybe in the past impeachment, there have been question about the ability of the congressman to handle a trial. So I think that they would want to show that. And the presentation of the first article, if my recollection is right, according to their schedule and their own pronouncement, the first article of impeachment that they'll present will be grave threats. The threat against the first couple and the former speaker. That is not as complicated. So I expect the congressman to be on the lead to lead this presentation of evidence. Unlike if you're talking of unexplained wealth, unlike if you're talking of AMLA documents, unlike if you're talking of bank records, medyo, that's a bit complex because you will have to go through the authentication of documents, authentication of signature. It's a long process.
Picking up off of Angela's question, the defense team with 16 lawyers led by Attorney Sheila Season, who has about 21 years of experience, Attorney Philip Sigrid Fortun, over 40 years of experience, and Attorney Gregorio Narvasa II, over 40 years of experience. But the rest of the legal team, they have less than 10 years of experience. How does this all come into play as a defense team?
Well, that's what we want to see, how their team will gel. Because remember, they're coming from one law office. So in a law firm, generally, there is a structure, except for 2 or 3, I think, who are formerly part of their firm. They have a structure, they have a certain set of protocol and who is to be followed. So what we have to watch out for would be who will be presenting the witnesses. That will be very critical. Who will be presenting the witness? Will it be the lead counsel? Will it be Attorney Fortun who will be presenting the witnesses? Because remember, he's been very quiet. But during the Estrada impeachment, he played a very important role during that the defense of former President Estrada. So we will have to wait. I don't expect that you have just one lawyer handling all of these witnesses and one lawyer cross-examining the witnesses. That will be very tedious. So I think being a team, they may have had discussion, they may have had huddle on how they will face these witnesses.
Well, Attorney, does the prosecution need to prove all the articles of impeachment to secure a conviction? Or isa pwede na?
As I mentioned, Angela, kung kumbinsido na sila with one article of impeachment, kumbinsido na sila, and then they think, kasi don't get me wrong, I think we have to understand that there is really the public here watching, and shaping the public's opinion is critical. So if they see, and allow me to use the vernacular, pag nakita nilang hinog na to, botohan na tayo. Kahit isa lang yan. Pag nakita nila hinog na to, magbotohan na tayo ngayon. And they feel that they could get a conviction, look at that. Probably they'll waive the rest.
In terms of the court of public opinion, how should the defense address this?
That's a good question, actually, because that will be a reality that they will face. I think taking from my experience in the past, huwag mo papatulan yung media. Huwag kang papatol sa media. Just try to explain, take everything with a grain of salt, take it in a stride. And I think they're doing it. Their spokesperson is doing it. Just huwag ka magagalit. At the end of the day, with your patience, with your effort to explain to the public, you'll be surprised that the public will understand. And that is based on my experience. I never thought that the public will be able to follow a legal proceedings like that. But you'll be surprised that for those who actually take time to listen, hours, monitor the proceedings, they would know the issues and they know what's really happening. The real concern for them would really be social media. Because unlike in the past, in the 2012 impeachment of CJ Corona and the 2001 impeachment of the former President Estrada, there's no social media. So you have practically 18 hours or 24 hours before you see the same.
Exactly.
The new. In fact, you will be asked by your friends in media, o attorney, baka gusto mo komentahan mo to, may banner headline kami. Attorney, baka gusto mo komentahan to, lagyan natin dito. Kahit na sa experience ko, again, wag sila magtatampo, when they ask me that, minsan hinahanap ko statement ko, hindi ko makita, nandun pala sa huling paragraph. Matyaga lang pala ako magbasa.
Yeah.
But I will not fault them for that, you know. But again, that's how it is. That's how the world operates. You know? So, mas mahirap ngayon. Because you have social media, everyone is a platform. You don't even have the ability to properly regulate them. You don't know if they are competent. So what they'll do is, sometimes as it happens, and there are witnesses, and there is a statement that they like, they will already spin a story. And then they will already have an art card. Oh, wow, this is a good statement. This will show that the vice president's not guilty. Or this is exactly what we wanted. The vice president is guilty. Watch out for that. Because this is already a different ballgame.
Well, attorney, taking off from what you said, aside from the difference ng social media today and the impeachment trial before, what lessons from the Corona impeachment trial may apply to this case?
Well, first, we have to look at this the process as a system of accountability.
Right.
Second, we have to look at this process as a process that should strengthen our institution. Okay, and I will not say no. Let's forget about politics. No, will always be there, and that the process. And the third is that the process there, whatever the outcome is, because I foresee that there will be other cases to be filed against her, regardless of the outcome. After whether she wins, if she wins, probably after her term, you know, that should be validated by the evidence in the future. Because now you're talking of what? Accountability to hold that office. And if you get to be removed, you can no longer hold office in the future, you see? So this, as in the case of CJ Corona, remember, he was removed on the ground of the SAL-N. That is the ground, because it was inaccurate. 10 years later, the Sandigan Bayan, the civil forfeiture, said that they said it was just an error. The funds are his. You know? So these are realities that we'll be faced with. What is important is, to my mind, at the end of the day, the system is credible regardless of the outcome. And being credible, it would strengthen us as a people, as a republic, because this will not be the last impeachment, right? Beyond their lifetime, there will be many more. And for as long as there is the Constitution, that will hold. That is a foundation. That is the foundation of every republic. So we should not be playing around with it.
All right.
Attorney, speaking of credibility, you know, in previous impeachment proceedings, we've seen star witnesses. In terms of the witnesses listed so far, who do you see could be the major standout, and what should prosecutors and the defense team do when it comes to these witnesses?
Actually, I don't want to give an opinion, but this is just an off the top of my head view. I would think that critical in this trial, the core of this trial, will be the SAL-N. Critical will be the funds. Critical will be its declaration. Critical will be the unexplained wealth, as they claimed and by the prosecution. All of this would be critical. And why do I say so? Because these matters are matters that the public could easily understand. You, me, we could understand this, right? And in the past, the Chief Justice was convicted because of this. CJ Corona, CJ Sereno was the core of the co-warrant to action against her in the Supreme Court, was also the non-declaration or non-submission of the SAL-N. So to my mind, these matters are easy for the public to understand. And it will be very easy to assuage their emotions. You get, okay, ano pala yan eh, SAL-N eh, you know. It's very easy for them to understand.
I want to ask you sana, attorney, regarding the merits of the case. Kaya lang baka ayaw mo sagutin.
Ayaw kasi, you know, for trial lawyers, until you see the evidence, you would not. Well, if they want, probably others would wait, will do it. But again, for me, unless I get to see this, very hard. And you know, the difficulty of this process is, again, I will say again, it's a legal, it's a constitution, and there is a political aspect. That's very hard to read.
Yes,
I
yes.
tell you, it's very hard to read. 2 days before, you will not be sure what their vote will be. 3 days before, you will not even be too sure.
Right. Ano na lang, attorney, very quickly na lang. So what happens if some of the senators or senator judges will boycott today's trial? So legally, what will happen? And public's perception, ano yung nakikita natin?
Okay. Legally, for as long as they have the quorum, tutuloy yan.
Right.
Okay? Tutuloy yan. Kahit pa lang yun, 13 lang yan, 14, tutuloy yan. Okay? Well, the public perception, that's a good question. It will be a bit tricky. Of course, they will have political following, both parties, di ba? Both groups, I'm sorry. Both groups. So, ang iba dyan, sasabihin nila, for the prosecution, na hindi, tuluyan nyo na yan. Sorry sila. They are not performing their duty as senators. That is a betrayal of their oath. Ganyan. Asahan mo yan. Pag naman yung mga, yun naman pabor doon sa mga nag-walk, yung hindi naman nag-walk out, yung hindi present, you know, what do you expect from that proceeding? That is, there is already an expected outcome. You expect all of this. Hindi naman tayo, I think, alam niyo yung pinag-uusapan natin, hindi naman baguhan ng mga tao dito. And that's why the magic word here is credible. A credible process for the public, for every one of us.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Tranquil Salvador III, for joining us here on Morning Matters.
Thank you.
Okay, Angela and Cheska, good morning.
More matters to discuss after this quick break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. The defense team of Vice President Sara Duterte said it is ready to face the House prosecution panel. In its pre-trial brief, the defense said it has listed 90 potential witnesses for the impeachment trial. However, defense spokesperson Attorney Michael Poa said case. He also rejected claims that they were copying the witness list of the House prosecution panel. The defense assured that Vice President Duterte is ready to appear before the Senate impeachment court if necessary.
With both the prosecution and the defense saying they are ready, all eyes are now on the Senate as it begins the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. What can the public expect from day one? Let's get a view of political strategist Malu Tiquia. Good morning, Ms. Malu. Thank you for joining us again.
Good morning to you and good morning to your televiewers.
Yeah, good to see you. Of course, both camps are saying they are both ready. From a political standpoint, who enters this trial with the great advantage?
I think it's the defense.
Why do you
because the prosecution will just have to prove their case and the defense will just have to react. So technically, they have been disciplined and very quiet in the pre-trial procedure. They were even questioning certain documentary evidence and stated that they will just mark their own evidence, considering both same document have different pages, etc. So I think the defense, people are expecting the defense to say their arguments, and then the prosecution will just have to prove, since there was form and substance. So technically, it's for the prosecution to prove their case.
We actually just spoke to Attorney Salvador also, but from your point of view, what should the public realistically expect on day one?
Well, on day one, I don't think sparks will fly. I think this would be very procedural. The Senate President has decided to be the presiding officer, rightly so, because the Constitution says so. Then again, there is the question of the threshold. I think those issues will have to be handled so that everyone is on the same page, on the same conclusion, in the same numbers that we are having. No, right now there would have been 6 pro acquittal. But with Senator Marcoleta and the decision of the Sandigan Bayan, I don't know how this will turn out today. So that leaves them with 5, plus 2 who are floating. I understand Senator Estrada is going to file a motion to allow him for law to be able to participate. And of course, the surprise of them all is Senator De La Rosa. Suddenly he showed himself during the rally of the Iglesia Ni Cristo. So if that is a pattern by which he will be operating, I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of these days would show up, and one of these days would probably be there for the counting of the votes.
So in terms of, we're talking about the senator judges right now, do you think, or do you believe, or do you at least think that they will vote based on the evidence presented, or it's going to be the other way around? They will be thinking about public's perception. They will be thinking about their political career.
Yeah, well, those are the realities as a judge of an impeachment court. No, these are politicians. There are some who will be ending their term. There are some who would be running for re-election. So technically, they will be listening to the public pulse. Will they decide on the evidence as presented? It depends. I do acknowledge that Senator Lacson stated over the weekend that the BIR box will be returned to the House of Representatives. If that will be so, then that is one charge out of the 5. And rightfully, I don't know if that will be decided upon by the impeachment court, where the motion will be introduced by Senator Lacson. But if that would be the case, then they are showing to everyone that the BRR documents under the National Tax Code technically can be opened because of privacy issues. So the projection of legal wealth may suffer without the BIR. And then, of course, you have the AMLA. If they recognize the BIR glitch, then that puts everything down when it comes to AMLA. The SALN, if the impeachment court would say you cannot do 19 years to 20 years, instead just do 3 years, then that will fall. So I don't see it going, more than 2 months, but I understand that the prosecution is presenting so many witnesses and is asking for a 90-day schedule while the defense is 30 days. I think it's clear the 30 days will tell you that the defense does not see any probative value on the evidence set by the prosecution.
With regard to the green box, according to Section 71 of the National Internal Revenue Code, unsealing the box would need either written authority from the President upon recommendation of the BIR and Department of Finance, or a written waiver from the respondent. Do you see any of these scenarios happening?
I don't think the respondent will waive husband and wife their rights, their privacy rights on their BIR. The President, well, it's really up to him, because over the weekend, he also said that finally he articulated his sentiment that the Vice President should attend, respond to the impeachment proceeding. I don't know if they will go that far, because certainly they've been going far when it comes to those senators who are aligned with the Vice President.
Well, Ms. Malu, talking about the senator judges, you have 5, at least 5 senator judges would definitely vote acquitted, will acquit the Vice President in this trial. But among the others, sino yung nakikita mong po pwedeng masway yung decision nila?
Well, right now, siguro kagabi may usap-usapan who would be strongly for conviction, who would be strongly for acquittal. The 5, as you mentioned, they're fixed. And that is Go, Padilla,
Aimee,
the two Cayetanos, right? And then the other side is 13. They're looking for 3 for the 16 threshold. It would appear the swing is Loren Legarda and the 2 Villars. So if this pushes through, I'm not discounting Senator Bato, because there's nothing that prevents him from showing up. So if, for example, you have 6, Bato shows up, that's 6, you only need 1 for acquittal, kasi 7 yon. For conviction, you need 3. So those 3, the swings, are very important. That is why a furlough for Senator Estrada is also crucial. I don't know how Sandiganbayan will react. I understand
but history
with
will
Senator
tell. Yeah, but history will tell us when Senator Laila de Lima at that time sought for court's approval, they didn't allow her.
Yeah, but that's a different case, because Senator Laila de Lima wanted to discharge her function as a lawyer. This one is an impeachment trial. So the impeachment being sui generis, we would need jurisprudence coming out from the courts
court itself,
to determine that.
With the threshold still being said that it's at 16, do you see any possible way that this will change?
It depends on the impeachment court. If they decide the threshold is based on actually present, that would change. But you will have, that opens a test case before the Supreme Court to seek the interpretation of the Supreme Court. What is the threshold? Because the Constitution is clear that it is 2/3 of all members. So there was no discussion, do you have coercive control over that member, etc., etc. There's none.
I don't remember asking you this, but I want to know your stand on this. Should the Vice President appear today on the first day of her trial? Because Constitution would tell us na hindi naman siya required.
Yeah,
diba,
yeah.
to-
And I think I answered that no, she doesn't have to show up.
Yeah.
But since this is, you will have the impeachment court already meeting, this is the first time a sitting vice president, this is the second impeachment from the House of Representatives. I do hope she will appear. In fact, I was thinking she could probably appear today as a show of confidence to the Senate and to the process. To a certain degree, you have to stabilize the system.
Right.
Because our politics is eating up our economics, and it has not been good for the country. So it's either she appears to show sincerity of the process. Yes, it is still pending in the Supreme Court, but it is part and parcel of leadership to show responsibility and to be there. Now, if she doesn't show up today, I do understand that she's willing to be there every time that she's needed, because she also wants these things to be over and done with.
In terms of, yes, appearance, showing confidence, of course, everyone watching this, the Filipinos all watching, there will be a court of public opinion.
That's right.
How will either sides win? Or what do they need for the court of public opinion to sway their way?
The problem with the House of Representatives is institutionally there is the issue of the flood control.
Right.
And whenever you see certain legislators standing, acting as a prosecution, people will be reminded of, ano ba nangyari sa taxes namin? O ikaw, di ba nakatanggap ka? I mean, the lexicon like paldo, maleta, that keeps coming out in social media. So it's institutionally may problema ang House of Representatives. The process that happened may problema. Si Vice President, what is going for her is the COA. She just recently received another positive. The issue on the confidential fund, though it hits hard, will, I hope, be finally resolved once the witnesses are presented, because that also crosses into the use of confidential and intelligence fund of other officials in the government.
Aside from the court of public opinion, there's also the possibility of disinformation, because social media, anyone can post anything at this point. They'll say anything. They'll do their own analysis. So how should either side make sure that their arguments, that their witnesses, evidence, everything remains factual, especially in the world of social media?
That is a hard question because it crosses freedom of expression. But to a certain degree, both camps will have to rein in their followers and their social media operators to really do what is presented. Because you're correct, there is a court of public opinion and the impeachment court. And to a certain degree, the court of public opinion is really a fight between the base of the Vice President and the House of Representatives. So, mahirap yun, mabuti na may fact checker, probably. The mainstream media will have to do their part because kayo, you control, you know what is being presented. Sa social media kasi, it's parang double hearsay. May nagsabi na influencer ganito, all of a sudden they will tend to believe. So that's very hard. That's very hard. So I hope there be less of disinformation. And I hope mainstream media will probably guide the social media by coming up with, this is what happened on day one. This was what was presented in day one. So to a certain degree, nakikita ng taong bayan yung nangyayari. Kasi I don't know if they will televise it. That is another issue that will have to be discussed because sa pre-trial outside of the public realm. So I hope they televise it so that people will understand, and I hope they conduct it in Tagalog so more people will understand.
Well, that's part of the manifestation, no?
Yes, yes.
Na English and Tagalog will be used
But I
during the
don't know
course
if
of the
they
trial.
approve it na.
They will discuss it today.
Yeah. So maraming
Yes.
today.
Even yung ma-publicize itong trial, they will also discuss it today. But my question here, Malu, if Vice President Sara survives this, what's next for her and the Marcoses? Because ang sinasabi ng iba, a Duterte comeback will pose a threat, no,
Of
to
course.
Marcos. Sabi nga nila, political and perhaps even physical survival.
Well, if she hurdles the blocks, I think 2028 will be for her to lose. Okay? As for the Marcoses, it's going to be very hard to reckon with an Inday Sara post-impeachment where she is not convicted. Because technically, you see the near end of term, people are shifting, politicians will definitely shift. Whether the vice president will accept them is another thing. Whether she starts a new politics, a new brand of politics is another thing. But a conviction would mean with perpetual disqualification will, set the 2028 kind of a wild card for the simple reason that you don't have a front runner. Then there'll be new names. But since Duterte, the brand Duterte is not a brand only associated with Inday Sara. It is a brand that started with the former president, nurtured by the brand of the kids, probably another Duterte or another new name will come.
Hence, Baste is the plan B, as they say.
Let's see. Baste is young. Definitely, he sounds and projects himself like the father. But he has limited experience. He has no national experience. So some people are saying that's good.
Right, that's
some
good
people
point.
are saying that's bad. It's wild because we need someone who will make hard decisions coming from a Marcos administration.
All right. Before we let you go, Ms. Malu, we have 3 days this week. As you said earlier, we're not really expecting fireworks on day one, but what do we need to look out for in days 1, 2, and 3 of the impeachment trial?
Threshold is very important. Agreement on the scheduling as well as which, I do understand that there were manifestations made on which charges will be discussed first, which should not be. That should be made clear so that the public will be able to follow. And of course, the major thing is make it public so that people will understand and people will learn from it. We've never learned from impeachment because of the second envelope of ERAP and of Chief Justice Corona, the transaction of the bank. So I guess we have enough lessons to learn and apply in this impeachment.
Well, lastly, Malu, with all of the things that the Senate has gone through, diba, yung barilan, changing of leadership, etc., do you also think that the Senate is on trial here as well in the course of the public eye?
Yes, I agree with you. The Senate is on trial. Where, just to show proof, the Senate Blue Ribbon has changed 5 times in 11 months.
Right.
That never happened before. And we've never had a question on majority to elect the Senate President. So yes, it will be in trial. The senators will be in trial. The senators who were identified with the Blue Ribbon Committee, the senators who, who stood up and made a walkout, these things, they will be in trial. And I do hope we go back to the Senate of the old, where there is respect, there is
Integrity.
collegiality, there is consensus, and they put people first.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and insights, political strategist Maluti Kia. Good morning.
Thank you.
Now, don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after short break.
Good morning. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. We return now to the Senate, where final preparations are underway before the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte begins this afternoon. For more details, let's bring back Pauline Verzosa. Pauline, what's the latest?
Yes, Cheska. Well, before we delve into the preparations for the impeachment trial happening later this afternoon at 2 o'clock, we have a piece of breaking news, and that is the Sandigan Bayan has already issued an arrest warrant against Senator Rodante Marcoleta, and Senator Marcoleta has now been arrested by personnel of the Philippine National Police. This is after the 3rd Division of the Sandigan Bayan issued the arrest warrant against Senator Marcoleta and his co-accused in connection with the plunder case they are facing, over 75 million pesos of undeclared campaign donations. Now, according to Associate Justice Carl Miranda Senatas, now, of course, this affects the impeachment trial because Senator Marcoleta is expected to be one of the senator judges. But when Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian was asked on how the Senate will be handling this potential arrest of Senator Marcoleta. He remained mum, especially over the weekend. He declined to comment on the matter because for him, one, it's very sensitive, and two, he hasn't spoken yet to Senator Rodante Marcoleta about it. But now that he has been arrested, we can expect that this will also affect the number of senators who will be participating in the impeachment trial and maybe eventually even the threshold for conviction in these proceedings. Cheska.
Oh, Pawi, with the senator judges who will be attending the impeachment proceedings, have you seen which senator judges have arrived at the Senate already?
Well, this early, Cheska, we have seen Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian already inside the Senate premises. In fact, he even led the flag raising ceremony in the Senate grounds earlier this morning. But apart from Senator Gatchalian, we haven't seen any sightings yet of the other senator judges. But what we do know is that they are supposed to have an all-member caucus at 10 a.m. So we have yet to know if this is already underway. But in a few minutes, the prosecution panel is also expected to hold a press conference here with the media just hours before the Senate impeachment trial. As you know, day one is very, very important for both sides. And as Senator Sherwin Gatchalian said, today they will be tackling preliminary matters first. They will be discussing the formal entry of appearances of both sides, the opening statements, and also the resolution of some pending matters, including the opening of the BIR box and whether private prosecutors will be allowed to cross-examine witnesses today. So just an important note for our viewers, there will be no presentation of evidence or witnesses just yet because that will be happening tomorrow. But still, there's a lot to look forward to. Another question also in everyone's minds is whether Vice President Sara Duterte will indeed be appearing today in her trial after the impeachment court ordered her to personally attend, but she has an option whether to show up here personally or through her legal counsel. So that's something we will also be watching out for later, Cheska.
Thank you, Pauline Versosa.
Now, the Sandigan Bayan 3rd Division issued arrest warrants and a whole departure order today, July 6, 2026, against Senator Rodante Marcoleta and 3 others in connection with a plunder case. According to Associate Justice Carl Miranda, the warrants were issued after the court found probable cause in the case. Joining us live from Camp Crame is mobile journalist Jas Paredes. Jas, what's the latest on the case against Senator Marcoleta?
Yes, Angela, from the info na na-receive natin mula sa PNP sa ADG, ay nalaman natin ang nagtungo na ang Criminal Investigation and Detection Group sa Sandigan Bayan upang i-book ang booking procedures ni Senator Rodante Marcoleta kaugnayan ng kanyang pagdating niya sa Sandigan Bayan upang harapin kanyang plunder charges kaugnayan ng 75 million na undeclared campaign fine. Sa ngayon, Angela, wala pa tayong natatanggap na impormasyon mula sa Philippine National Police kung ano ang magiging susunod na aksyon kaugnay nito. Ngunit ang pagkakaalam nga natin ay tutungo si Senator Rodante Marcoleta sa Quezon City sa Payatas Jail upang doon siya i-detain. Sa ngayon, bago pa yan lumabas yung arrest warrant, ang pag-usapan sa press briefing kanina na nakahanda ang Philippine National Police sa pag-enforce ng kanyang warrant at kagaya nga raw ng mga naunang personalidad na hinainan ng warrant of arrest kagaya nila Senador Jinggoy ay i-enforce nila ito at napag-usapan din kanina yung possibility nga na kung sakaling ang umattend sa impeachment trial itong si Senador Rodante Marcoleta at lumabas yung kanyang arrest warrant habang nandoon siya ay ang kanilang response regarding dyan ay iahain ito sa kanya. Ngunit makikipag-ugnayan muna si Senate President kay Senate President Gatchalian. Ngunit kaya hindi ito yung ating naging kaso kanina dahil nga nagtungo na sa Sandigan Bayan itong si Senador Rodante Marcoleta. Angela.
All right, thank you so much, mobile journalist Jas Paredes. So much happening today. First day of impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte and now the arrest of Senator Rodante Marcoleta. We will soon also find out if he will be suspended from being senator upon this arrest because as we said, as we discussed, it's not automatic suspension. They will see if the evidence or the information is valid. Then they will decide if he will be suspended. Just like what happened with Senator Jinggoy Estrada.
And lots to watch out for, as our guests mentioned, the threshold.
Yeah.
Whether or not the scheduling and whether or not it's publicized, we'll keep track.
Yes. Will we see VP Sara today on her first day of trial? That remains to be seen. But that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
We hope we've given you just the right start to your morning. Let's make the day matter. I'm Cheska Lituncalo.
I'll see you again tomorrow, kapatid. We're One News.
All sides, all the time.